Hey guys, it's Jane! Friday today, so let's go with another Friday reads. I finished 4 books this week. How super fantastic is that? How super fantastic is that? So I'm going to run through them really quickly. I finished this one, Disco for the Departed by Colin Cotterill. This is a Dr. Siri mystery. These are all set in Laos in the 1970s, not long after the communist takeover and the end of colonial rule in Laos. This one is about a body turning up set in concrete, and not just any concrete, but the concrete that's laid in front of the president's house. Well, not the house that he lives in now, but the place where he was living in the caves in the mountains during the civil war that led to the colonials leaving and the communist takeover. The area's being prettied up because there's a big national jamboree a week away, and there's this landslide and this body's found. So Dr. Siri has to go and solve the mystery. This is a solid entry into the Dr. Siri series. The mystery itself is quite interesting, but for me, the best thing about this book is just the stuff about the historical background. Another book that I read this week is Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art. This is a really interesting book. I think it's an absolute must read if you're interested in getting into making comics. It comes with a reader's alert warning for readers of comics. Years ago, I was sharing a house with a girl who was studying film studies, and she had a whole bunch of books about film theory and how to read a film. I wanted to have a look at them, and she told me to think about it before I cracked the covers, because once you'd open them and once you'd read it, you will never look at a film the same way again. And I think she was right. And this is the same with this book. I don't think if you read this book, you will ever look at comics the same way again. There's a whole bunch of stuff that he breaks down and analyzes, which I just had never thought about. I'm going to show you 1 or 2 tiny little taster examples so you can get the idea of what I'm talking about. One of the things he talks about is closure, which is a mental process that's about what goes on in the reader's mind when they're filling in the gaps between what's shown in panels. Can you see this collection of panels down the bottom here where it's showing a kitchen, what's going on in the kitchen, and reading along the panels and getting the sensory input from the different panels, and and the way that you can, just from these little snapshots, imagine what's going on in that kitchen really clearly. Another thing that he talked about, he looks into conventions within comics, so ways that non-visual things. So one thing that he goes into quite a lot is how motion is represented and different conventions of representing motion. As you can see from that, this whole book is actually a comic itself. It's a comic about comics, which is beautifully meta. It's mostly black and white, though it does have a section which talks about colour. This is so meaty. It's well and away the meatiest comic book that I've ever read. And as I said before, you'll never look at comics the same way again after you read this book. The other 2 books that I finished this week, New Amsterdam, which is the one that I was reading last Friday, by Elizabeth Bear. From my video last week, you'll know that it started really strong and I was really enjoying it. It didn't actually finish quite as strong for me, and there's a few reasons I've been thinking about why that is. It actually starts off as in a kind of mosaic way. I really enjoyed the first half of the book where there was like an incident, a story, like a short story, and then another short story, which they're kind of interconnected, but there's no kind of direct line through. The second half of the book was a lot more cumulative, a lot more like just a direct narrative, and I actually enjoyed that first half where it was more mosaic-y, more. The other thing about this book is it's a vampire story. It's not just a vampire story, but it is a vampire story, and as any reader of vampire stories basically knows, there is this connection, close connection between vampirism and sexuality in lots and lots and lots of versions of vampire stories. And so there's this tightrope walk in lots of vampire stories where the narrative teeters on the edge of dropping into erotic writing. I have a problem with erotica. I do not like reading work that seems to me to have been written intentionally as titillation. I actually actively dislike that. I have other problems with romance fiction generally, but this is quite a specific thing. If I feel that I'm reading stuff which has been written not to progress the plot or develop the characters, but to titillate me, the reader, I do not like that. And notoriously, vampire fiction can fall into this area. And New Amsterdam teetered on the brink of that at points. I don't think it really fell off the edge into there, but I've been burnt before, and so when I feel that that's on the way, I get my back up. And so that's something about this book that I've made me uncomfortable. Not necessarily because it went there, but because it made me feel like it was about to go there a number of times. And yeah, so that's some of the reasons why I ended up not enjoying that story as much as I started off enjoying it. It's actually the beginning of a series which I was unaware of before I read it, and I am not sure whether I'm excited enough by this book to continue on with the series. The final book that I finished this week was Ancillary Sword. I've already made a review video for this book. It is my favourite book of the year so far. If you haven't seen my review and you're interested, please go and watch that. It was just, yeah, all of the things, all of the amazing things in that book. It was a great book. So, getting on to what I'm reading at the moment. I am very nearly halfway through The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, the first in the Gentleman Bastards series, and I'm really enjoying this. So far, there hasn't been terribly much fantastic in the story itself, but it is a fantasy world, and its central character is a guy called Loch Lamora, who is a thief. And he's not just any kind of thief. He's got a very specific version of the con. He's a bit of a genius in this sort of way. There's lots of funny one-liners in the story. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The other thing that I'm planning on starting is I'm finally planning on getting around to starting the Adrian Sterling books that Tanya from List Obsessed Reader sent me a month or so ago. I'm really sorry I've been slow getting to these, Tanya, but these are the books that I'm starting now, my physical books that I'm going to be starting. So that's me. It's going to be a super busy weekend, so I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done. It's the end of, it's the last day of school before the school holidays today, so I've got a million things I have to get done before that happens, before the kids get home. We've also got a big party this weekend because my lovely husband had one of those important birthdays during the week, so we're going to have a big party and people coming around tomorrow. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot of reading this weekend, but yeah, I'm going to sneak in as much as I can because that's what I do. I'd love to hear what you're reading, and I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!